Well, guys, welcome to another live stream. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with Bitcoin. I have things to say about both sides of the coin, literally. I'm going to check many different time frames. As I mentioned already, those of you who are live with me here right now, if there's any altcoins you want me to look at when I'm done my Bitcoin analysis, by all means, throw them in the chat. Just let me know what time frame you're kind of looking at, and I'll see if I can find Stuber Fibs. Some strategies I like to see with the indicators. If anything in general is jumping out at me, maybe there is nothing that catches my eye right away, but that's kind of the plan. So to start things out, I've been in this short for a couple days now. This actually played out as a Stuber Fib setup as well as a swing fail. I actually took it for the swing fail, but it plays out the same because the invalidation, I still have it above my 115. I have pointed out my color coding before that, in the purple box, that's generally where that's my Stuber Fib pocket, the 786 to the 886. And then from the 1 to the 1.15 Fib, that's kind of my swing fail, rejection, swing fail, fake out, liquidity grab, whatever kind of rejection you want to call it. But yeah, like I said, I treat it the same. And honestly, if I treated this as a Stuber entry rather than a swing fail, I only took it as a swing fail because I didn't notice it until we were getting rejected at this double top here. But if I had looked at this as a Stuber Fib, I would generally be laddering in my shorts something like this. And so my average entry probably would have been very close to what it is anyways, but I'm only in about a third of that position yet. I have taken profits on about 60%, 66% of it, I guess, 2/3 of it. And yeah, today we just ended up dumping a little bit again. I was actually, and I pointed out in the Bitcoin chat yesterday, I did even take a little bit of a hedge long because we had this Stuber Fib setup. But after we hit my 0.5 target, we never even hit my second target. So we hit my first target, got stopped at break even on the rest. My short is continuing to run. So I'm still favoring it, just in general. I'm still favoring the bearish side. But guys, it's not so much that Bitcoin looks bad. I know I've mentioned this on my last, I guess, few streams at this point, my public ones and my private ones here. I've mentioned many times that just basically we are still in my resistance zone. So I would always rather be a seller at resistance and a buyer at support rather than the other way around. This does not mean we can't break out, right? There's a lot of things suggesting that, hey, we could go a lot higher. But I just have my doubts and I have my big red flags. And again, I would just rather be selling or shorting at resistance rather than FOMOing long into resistance. And I know a hot topic recently, you guys. I'm seeing it in the chat. I'm seeing it on Twitter, and you guys all probably know where I'm going with this. But is a lot of people are very I don't know if it's curiosity or if people want to see people fail or what the whole gist of it is. But a lot of us are watching how things are unfolding with that Jason. What is it? James Wynn or Jason Wynn, whatever his name is. He made and lost crazy amounts of money. And guys, I'm seeing a lot of people kind of poke fun at him and stuff like that. And to a point, I am as well, because I want to be clear about something. It's not that I'm hoping to see that guy fail or anything, but I do think that he's trading like an idiot. But that does not mean, a lot of people are saying that, oh, they're posting pictures of his account and saying, yeah, you made it all and then you lost it all, kind of a thing. I want to be very clear about this. I have a feeling that guy is doing significantly better than every single one of us in this chat right now. I have a feeling that his finances are looking very good aside from all of that. Yes, I think that he's trading like a total gambler because this is the thing, guys. I would be totally cheering him on if he was aping that crazy long into support, and this is where someone like that would actually get quite bearish, would be if we end up dropping down to this purple box down here. Now, guys, that is a big if. I'm not saying we have to drop to that level, but I would be way more open to the idea of swinging at big longs at support rather than swinging at massive billion-dollar long positions right into a crazy level of resistance. Guys, on the weekly chart, I mean, just looking, this is a chart pattern. This is one that I actually like this chart pattern more than Stuber fibs. Okay, guys, I talk about Stuber fibs way more because they happen way more, but this chart pattern is one that I back tested years ago. And, I went over, I can't remember, it was either 3 or 5 years of data on the 4-hour and daily charts of back testing this chart pattern, and it played out with over an 85% success rate for a big reversal type of move. And we've even seen it this market cycle a couple of times already. And yeah, sure, eventually they end up getting invalidated where we have this overextended down to regular territory, down to that 70 level. Seen that massive overextended divergence with a double top, Stuber fib, swing fail, whatever you want to call it, but basically having that RSI divergence with some sort of a double toppy type of pattern. And I mean, we got a 30% correction here. So yeah, eventually we broke out. But if you're going to pretend a 30% correction is not significant, I mean, that is a massive move. And I remember specifically making massive profits in this range here by swinging at that several times. And basically same thing up here. Same thing. We got this very small range here where we got our double top, Stuber fib, whatever way you want to look at it. Our RSI was overextended and down to that 70 level. And basically to break it down how this is playing out and what that means is, guys, a lot of people look at the RSI. It's a lot of people's favorite tool. Mine, like RSI is one of my favorite indicators. And it's so simple, but so many people use it wrong and think that basically it's overbought or oversold kind of a thing. And it really depends what way the market is trending to consider that, because if the RSI is in overbought conditions, it doesn't mean it's overbought if we're in a nice bull market uptrend. If we were in a bear market and we get up there, yeah, sure, then, overbought, sure. What gets me more so is when we go from that overextended and then we try and attack that same level of resistance with significantly less strength. That's what that relative strength index indicator is showing, that it's significantly lower when we're trading into the same level of resistance. So, everyone was getting mega bullish at this area as we tested all-time highs again, but we had so much less strength that the market couldn't hold it, and we ended up getting a 30% correction. 32% correction, whatever. And guys, right now we actually have a bigger version of that looks like it's trying to play out. And I've been warning about this for a while. And to be fair, yeah, we ended up breaking my 89K resistance on the lower time frame, the micro trend. But as soon as that happened, this level of resistance anywhere from 102 to 115K is all fair game for a massive rejection with a massive bearish divergence. And guys, I'm not saying it has to happen again, but this is the exact chart on the weekly time frame that ended the last market cycle, okay? I'm not saying it has to happen, but every time we see this chart pattern play out, there is significant moves. It doesn't have to happen again. Like I said earlier, I was back testing it and I believe it was an 87% success rate, that with this pattern on the 4-hour and the daily, that it would basically call a really, I shouldn't say really big, but a significant reversal. So the fact that we're seeing the exact same thing right now, I can't really ignore that on the weekly. And when it looks so identical to last market cycle top, even the timing, I mean, you look what happened back here. We had our big correction and then we shot right back up to that level, just like we did last cycle with that big divergence. And then the market couldn't hold that. And eventually we dumped. I've been talking about this for a little while now, and I've actually had some friends messaging me, social media friends messaging me, real life friends messaging me. I've received several messages of people saying that, Stu, don't you think it would have played out by now if you were right about this being a rejection zone? Understand that last cycle, we were testing the same level that we are at right now in our market cycle. We were testing the same sort of structure for about 5 to 6 weeks. We currently aren't even at 2 weeks. So the market may play with our emotions for significantly longer, and it's going to drive people nuts if we just trade sideways and eventually dump, because so many people think that if we're trading sideways here, it has to be consolidation for a continuation. But understand, we broke this structure to the downside, and then getting that retest with significantly less strength on the relative strength index indicator. There's nothing saying that we have to go higher. I do agree we could, right? The thing is, where we are right now in this resistance pocket, no matter which side of the fence you're on, this is a dangerous zone, you guys. I've said this in my last few videos, that you are either longing right into massive resistance or you are shorting against a strong uptrend. So, no matter how you look at it, it is dangerous right now. But the fact is, like I said, with backtesting this pattern so much in with my experience, that's the thing about backtesting, you guys. If you're trying to trade based totally on emotions, how you think things are going to react, what a tweet is going to do to the market, all that sort of stuff, that's wishful thinking. And just, I guess the thing with backtesting is anybody who's trading with real money, anybody who is trading, period, should not put real money behind their theories until they've backtested some sort of a strategy that they can trade. If you're just trading off a prayer, I mean, it's not going to end well. And the thing is, when I backtested this type of structure, understand that I did not go back and look at the fundamentals that were happening globally when the chart looked like this. I was not looking at tweets. I was not looking at, Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. It had nothing to do with that, right? Nobody who backtests chart patterns are actually going back and finding out what was happening fundamentally. You are just looking at your numbers of, hey, when this happens, what are the odds that are going to play out? And the fact that, I've had such good luck with this pattern across basically every time frame, I just can't ignore it on the weekly. So that's why I'm still leaning bearish until we break this level, right? That's the thing, guys. If I'm wrong and we end up breaking this, I can just, I've sold some of my spot now, because I was just looking at this as far as risk reward. I mean, the fact that I was selling right around my double top level here, around 110K, selling some spot, changing some of my spot Bitcoin over to altcoins, turning some of it into fiat cash, and turning some of it into stable coins, because if I'm wrong about this and we break out, I can just buy back in and just consider it a lost trade. I can set, and I'm probably going to do this actually, is set a stop limit order above my 115K invalidation so that I can just buy back into my spot position and consider it a lost trade, just like if I was shorting this rather than selling. I would have a stop loss, right? I can do the same thing with spot. It's not like, Stu sold and we're going higher. Haha, he missed the whole bull market. No, understand that anybody who is that concerned about missing this, I mean, what is this from this level up to invalidation? That's a 5% move to the upside, you guys. If anybody's so concerned about missing that 5% move, and trying to long the shit out of resistance at this level because you're scared of missing the move when you could just wait for this move, this bearish structure to be invalidated. I mean, if you're seriously worried about missing that, then you don't have a lot of faith in what the actual parabolic bull market would look like if we do end up trending higher, right? That 5% shouldn't fucking matter. So I would rather be the guy who does take profits at an obvious sell level. And not all of it, right? I still have a whole bunch of my spot. I have just basically started selling some. But that's the thing, guys, is I can either get back in, consider it a small loss, buy back slightly less spot, or consider it profit taking, because a lot of the people who are saying it's so dumb to be selling at this level were probably not back in the market until they heard on social media that we were back above all-time highs, whereas a guy like me and many of us in here were actually bullish down when we started breaking downtrends, and we got bullish down below 20K. I don't care if I miss 5% when I've caught 500%, especially if I can get back in, right? So I just want people to understand that there's a massive difference between saying that we have to go to zero, that this market is over, I hate crypto, I want it all to go to zero, I want everyone else to lose money. It's nothing like that, guys. I'm just looking at it as risk reward, that, and people are going to misunderstand what I'm talking about when I start getting bearish at these levels, right? Because just like any trade setup with leverage, you have your invalidation levels, and that's what's so important about backtesting, and it helps you to be able to keep a level head, because with everything going on, everybody is so wrapped up in social media and, you know, Twitter posts and what Trump is saying and all that sort of stuff. Everyone's so wrapped up in all that stuff ever since January that technical analysis went right out the fucking window, you guys. To put it nicely, that's what happened. And, you know, when you backtest stuff and actually understand your mathematical probabilities over a longer period of time, it really helps you keep a level head and just stick to your trading strategy. That's really all that it comes down to, because I'm not even trading the weekly chart, you guys. Well, with spot, I kind of am. This is the reason why I was selling some spot. But as far as like lower time frames, I mean, I'm more so trading the 5 minute, the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 15 minute. You know, I look at other time frames, but I'm mostly trading the 5 minute. So yeah, like I said, I'm still in a short, but I'm also not blinded by the fact that just because I think that we could go significantly lower. Notice I said at the start of my stream, I have taken profits on 2/3 of the short position, because the market does not give a shit what I think. It doesn't care about my emotions. It makes that clear every single day. And, you know, at the end of the day, all that matters is that you need a systematic trading strategy that you can replicate, and you can't really do that without backtesting and finding a strategy that actually works for you, right? So yeah, just making sure that you're taking profits along the way. The way I see it, I mean, leverage trading is supposed to be for that quick, easy money. Leverage trading is not for YOLO, I am in this trade and not getting out of it until we totally get a market cycle in the opposite direction, right? It's not like I'm entering a 5 minute short from here and expecting it to play out for an entire bear market. But that being said, I do take profits along the way, and then I just kind of chase my position with a stop loss, or I just nibble on some profits whenever lower time frame structure breaks and that sort of stuff, just to, you know, pay myself a little more as we go. But I'm really not just entirely banking on a home run trade. I'd never close my positions entirely, because if that home run happens, I want to be a part of it. Right? If that trade turns into a home run, it would be a damn shame if we did nuke down to some of my targets, like 83K, for example. If we ended up hitting that level and I wasn't in a short anymore, I would be kind of bummed out, because, oh, I should have held on to a part of that short, right? So even if I close like 3/4 of a position and just let a quarter run or whatever, that's kind of how I like to treat my shorter time frames. So if the swing trade does happen, I can still catch it with scalp sized risk, basically. That being said, guys, before I sound too negative, there is some bullish signs. Let's say, for example, the Trendmaster indicator. We have this beautiful buy trend. Yeah, we have technically lost it at this point. We are trading below it, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see a new 4-hour sell signal come into this indicator. Something to consider there is that it is going to be a significantly higher sell signal. So at that point, basically I would be expecting some sort of a slightly higher buy signal. So even if we got a big reversal here, I would still love to end up being a buyer down at the support level, and that's where everyone would be screaming bear market on is, and you know, guys who want to breakout trade are going to be shorting right into support, just like they're longing into resistance now. Very natural. But if we get a higher sell signal, I would also expect a higher buy signal, like I said. So that's where I would love to pull a fib from where we ended up finding support here, basically, and doing something like this, just pulling to wherever we top out, which so far it's right there. And just notice where my purple box lines up. That's my 786, 886 of that run. So I'm not saying we have to go down to this level. Not at all. We could find support at any time. You know, we could get a sell signal and then boom, higher buy signal, and we just absolutely blast off. It is entirely possible. But if we end up coming down to these levels, I'm ready for it, where a lot of people are going to be panicking and not knowing what the hell they should do, because it's going to look scary, because support always looks terrifying, just like resistance always looks very juicy. People love getting bullish at resistance and love getting bearish at support. That's very natural for human instincts. But as traders, we need to set those emotions aside and look at the chart for what it is. Everyone would always agree that, even this is a perfect example. If this was a 5-minute chart, everybody in here with me right now and everybody watching this on my YouTube channel later should agree that if these numbers, pretend these numbers aren't here, just looking at the chart for the structure, everybody would agree that we are at resistance. But when we look at the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, or the monthly, again, technical analysis goes right out the fucking window for some reason, especially with crypto traders, is we are not disciplined. We are degenerates. We don't like things to take a while to play out. But now that bigger players are in the space, it's very natural for things to move more, honestly, in a healthy manner. It would be very healthy, even if we're going to remain bullish, because let's face it, we have this high, we have a higher high. So yeah, it's being respected so far as a swing fail, but it is still a higher high. So again, I'm comfortable with looking at buying down at this level. That would be closer to 83K if we get there. Again, right? Not saying we have to, but if we get there, I will be looking for long opportunities, because that would just be a typical Stuber fib setup. I don't care if this is a 4-hour chart. If it's a 5-minute chart, I would be looking at longing down here. I would have no interest in longing in any of this area if this was a shorter time frame chart. So I'm not going to treat the 4-hour or anything any differently. Obviously, there's a good chance I'm going to take longs in that area, but it won't be based off this chart. It will be based off lower time frame setups. If this itself was a 5-minute chart, I would not be looking to start a long position until down here. And that's based entirely on structure, no emotions, no numbers. I understand that, that's so many thousands of dollars away. That can't happen. LOL, we're never going to see those prices again. I was told that when we were trading at this level right here. I was doing a public stream and someone told me we would never see 94K again. Well, we saw 74K. So just understand that no matter how sure you are of something, you can be wrong. And just understand that, again, like I said, if this was a lower time frame chart, everyone would agree this is a beautiful swing fail worth shorting that retest. Perfect retest there, and now we're dumping. I think it makes perfect sense that we could see a deeper retracement, right? I have no interest from a swing trade approach. I have no interest in longing this. Short term, yes. Like I said yesterday, I took a long position yesterday and I made profits on it. It's okay as traders. That's the thing with being able to keep your emotions at bay. That's the thing. It's okay to trade against your own bias as long as you have the trade set up for it. And again, that's where back testing and having a strategy actually comes into play. Sorry, I have been going on quite the rant here, so I do want to catch up on the chat here. I do Adrian talking about it's hype time. I'm gonna look at hype, brother. Let me just catch up on some of the chat here. Yeah, that James Win guy, my understanding is he made it all from alts that mooned and lost it all from leverage. Yeah, that's very possible, right? I don't know his backstory. Haven't listened to any podcasts or interviews or anything with the guy. I just think he's trading like a gambler is all. But again, I think he is probably sitting just fine financially. That's just a gut feeling. MySpace. Yeah, I forgot about MySpace. Stu dropping facts. Chaos gets it. Yeah, exactly, Adrian. You love to see that on X people are talking bullshit without any constructive analysis. That's the thing, guys, is understand. And that's one thing that I see too is quite often when people are pointing out bearish facts in the charts and they get hung out to dry. I mean, people hate seeing anybody posting anything bearish because everyone wants to be in a feel-good bubble. But yeah, just understand that people who are telling you to be cautious at resistance, that's the thing. I'm not even telling you to sell your spot the way I am because I'm comfortable with adjusting my positions on the go. I'm not telling you what to do. But a lot of people who are warning to be cautious at resistance are backing it up with analysis, whereas the moon boys you see on social media are never showing any reasoning for it. like from a chart perspective, it's always just emotional nonsense, in my opinion. You know, it doesn't matter. I understand a lot of people think that, you know, if certain people are in power, you know, we're guaranteed to go higher because I love this guy, so he would never do anything to harm me. He's going to help me get rich just like him, kind of a thing. And honestly, that's not, well, that was at one particular person, but that goes as a whole, right? Like, as a whole, the people, nobody is going to look over your investments more than you should be. Nobody cares more about your portfolio than you should. So you need to go ahead and do the homework, do your own back testing. And I know everyone always says not financial advice, do your own research, form your own opinions. That's so freaking important. You should not be able to blame anybody but yourself if things go south, right? So yeah, just understand that anything can be misunderstood. You know, a lot of people saying that, oh, if this happens in the economy, we're going to moon. You know, if you're trying to understand the whole global economy and you think you have an edge there because you understand the global economy more than a few colorful lines, I got bad news for you. There's so many things that you have not even heard about that could be affecting what's going on. There's so much room for error if you're trying to understand fundamentals. And I would say from an investment point of view, totally go fundamentals. You know, I can't say anything bad about that. If you're actually investing in something like Bitcoin, for example, is yes, the fundamentals over the long haul are very good. And, you know, that's how investing should be done. But looking at things for actually trading, I would never try and place a trade based on, you know, a tweet or a news article or anything like that. I learned my lesson doing that like 4 years ago, and I can tell you which one I prefer to do. And a lot of what's happening in the market right now reminds me so much of what happened to me in my first year of trading, actually more so my first months, when there was constantly bullish nonsense being rammed down my throat and all the prices kept going down. You know, that's just, it feels very similar to what's happening these days. And, you know, I know a lot of people say like, oh, well, hopefully Trump doesn't announce something about tariffs or whatever, but understand that it still always lines up with analysis. Like he announces tariffs as we're trading into resistance. He announces pulling things back as we're trading into support, and this has nothing to do with my political views at all. I'm just saying how it is that so often those things that are blindsiding people are in the charts already. Like I just think it's so much more important to trade the charts rather than fundamentals if you're actually trading, not investing, right? Chaos, I tend to close too early 50% of the time. I like my sleep too much, even with stop losses. Yeah, I mean, as long as I've taken some profits on my positions and updated my stop loss, I can sleep just fine. Sometimes I'll set alerts to go every single minute until I wake up to check. But usually I sleep pretty good as long as I know I have paid myself. So that, you know, I basically always ask myself, you know, as any position is running, I often ask myself, if this reverses on me from here and I don't take any more profits, am I going to be upset that I round tripped that? If the answer is yes, I will start taking more profits and updating my stop loss and that sort of stuff. If the answer is no, I'm totally okay with it, then whatever, right? YOLO. Like I said, I will check out Hype in a little bit. I'm just skimming over some chat. Hopefully I don't miss anything. In today's value, someone Chaos. Ooh, that would have been rough. But yeah, like you said, that's in today's value, right? The amount of Bitcoin you would have lost in a rough trade back in the day or whatever. We realize he is absolute nutcase. Best place in a home for the elder on strong meds. Who are you? Yeah. Training do action immediately. Yeah. So basically, guys, I understand I'm going on a little bit of a rant, but I just want you guys to understand why I'm able to keep a level head at these prices is because honestly, my biggest edge in this market, I think, is that I don't generally get very strong emotions tied to too many things. So I don't care who's doing what in the world of politics. I don't care, what's going on around crypto because crypto is always, being more adopted and fundamentals are always getting better around crypto. So that's another thing, guys. Understand, I see so many people on social media saying things like, oh, this is happening, and this is happening, and you're bearish. The every market cycle top, the market fundamentals have never been more bullish than that moment. So understand that eventually it doesn't matter how bullish everything is fundamentally. Eventually there's going to be a shift in a trend. That's very basic price action. That's very natural in market cycles. If Bitcoin drops significantly, it doesn't mean that Bitcoin's dead. We've all seen the articles. We've seen Bitcoin die like freaking 700 and some times at this point, I'm sure. Probably over 1,000, actually, we see the articles. So, I mean, I don't think crypto, well, let's face it, crypto and Bitcoin specifically is not going anywhere. There's way too much money in it. There's too big of players. But that being said, with that kind of structured fundamentals and it leads to less volatile markets. Everyone's celebrating that BlackRock and governments and all these big players are getting involved in crypto. Understand that we missed those massive early adoption days. Yes, I think the market will still trend upward over time because I think Bitcoin's programmed to outperform the dollar, for example. But just understand that as those bigger players get into the space, the market cycles are going to be significantly, smaller bull markets. So far, and that's the thing, right? I mean, when we really zoom out on the grand scheme of things, every bull market gets significantly smaller, but bear markets still get the same fib retracements. Every market cycle so far has respected the Stuber fib as far as bottoming out. I don't want to here basically where we topped that market cycle, notice we pulled back to the Stuber fib. This market cycle pulled back to the Stuber fib. This market cycle pulled back to the Stuber fib. So if we end up topping around here, what do you think's going to happen? We're probably going to end up pulling back to a Stuber fib, and if that happens, I am going to have some serious laddered entries down when everyone thinks, again, Bitcoin's dead because we're below 50K. I think that's where we would see significant buy-in come in. See, and that's where those big players that are patient and, have the money sitting aside, ready to buy dips, that's the thing. What kind of smart money do you know that got rich off just market smashing billions of dollars into all-time highs on assets? If anything, everything bullish that's happening fundamentally for these big players getting into the space, I think that's more of a next cycle kind of a thing. Like, if I was smart money, that sounds funny. But, if I was absolutely loaded and I was those guys, I would be looking at waiting for a proper dip, not market smashing $1 billion long position into resistance, for example, right? So that's the thing. If we go into a bear market, I think you're going to see those people talking bearishly about crypto so that they can scare you and buy it from you for significantly cheaper because they know how to play the markets. Oh, good, Maz. Thanks for joining in. So let's check out Bitcoin on the 5-minute again. We do have a potential double bottom. What's the RSI looking like? It's not a super obvious one. If I hadn't taken a bunch of profits off my short already, I would be looking at taking some here, but overall, I'm still bearish on this trend. I will be looking to actually take additional short positions if we end up trading back into a nice big Stuber fib, something like this. ALGO Master agrees with me. The auto Stuber fibs have the same fib pull, so that's some nice confluence to have. So yeah, it's very possible we see a bounce now. I'm not willing to long it at this point, but it's very possible we do something like that before seeing further downside. Or maybe we don't see further downside, right? Maybe that's the bottom. Maybe that's the market bottom. We end up going to new all-time highs from now. Doesn't matter. I've taken some profits off my short. Stop loss is break even. It really doesn't matter at this point. That's the thing, right, guys? As traders, it's okay to be wrong and you can still make money, just like a weatherman. Yes, Adrian, I will finally take a look at hype. I did promise. What I would be looking at right now is on the 5-minute, we do have a potential Stuber fib right here. That would be somewhere up here. So that right there would be my Stuber fib. And then this would be swing fail territory. Right? Because I know a lot of people misunderstand the Stuber fibs and think that if we break above the 886 that the trade's invalidated. I've never once said that, so that's people jumping to their own conclusions. What I do always say is I don't start laddering into a position until the Stuber fib. So this is where my entry starts, and I generally ladder a bunch of positions in something like that, and then if we smash through the 115, I leave a little wiggle room past. No structured amount. It depends if there's a nice round number to go above, whatever. But yeah, basically my stop loss would be above the 115 somewhere because I give that breathing room for that swing fail to play out. If you want less risk, then you can wait for a test and see if you do get a swing fail because obviously the stop loss is significantly tighter then. But that all depends too. Depends how you ladder in. Sometimes, if I'm feeling, things are a little bit risky and I want to tighten up my risk a little bit, sometimes I'll do like a 20% of my short, another 20, and then 30, something like that. Because as you're going higher, as you're getting closer to your invalidation and laddering in heavier at that point, then you're obviously tightening up your stop loss, getting your average entry closer to your invalidation. So that's another way to handle that. But yeah, that's kind of a setup that I'd be looking at right now on the 5-minute. ALGO Master, that's nice confluence to have, right? It agrees, same auto fibs. So yeah, it's very possible we bounce up here, but I don't know if that would necessarily mean we're bullish. Let me zoom out a little bit. I actually want to remove all the drawings. I just want a naked chart here. Honestly, this doesn't look great. The fact that we ended up losing this, because I would have been looking at the structure like so. We had this high, we had a higher high. That's our confirmed higher low. And we have obviously dropped that. I can pretty much guarantee we haven't broke the 115 yet. So as far as looking for a very tight invalidation kind of a setup, you could be looking at laddering in some longs with a nice tight stop loss down here, because I think it's quite likely we do see a bounce eventually. But just understand that we did break some fairly serious structure there on the 4 hours. So even if we do get a nice bounce soon, I think it's actually quite likely something like that does happen. I don't know if I'm quite willing to. I'm going to zoom in a little bit after I go over this to take a closer look, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see us get a bounce, something like that, hit the Stuber fibs like that, and then end up seeing some sort of a reversal. So basically, since we lost that structure there, right, low, we now have lower low. So that would be the high of our current pivotal point. So I would be looking at pulling a fib, something like this. Yeah, so if the price ends up dropping lower, if we just keep nuking to the downside, then my range is just going to grow, right? I'm just going to chase the price. But basically, if we end up getting some sort of a bounce here, then I would be expecting us to see some resistance up here. Even if we were to end up going higher eventually, I think it's quite likely that the first time we would see some sort of a rejection worth scalping at that point, just because we have the bearish structure on the 4 hour there. I would be very interested as soon as we get up into these levels, start watching some lower time frames for some short opportunities. Hype has the same sentiment as Bitcoin. They move quite often together. If we push higher now, then it will be a massive short for me. Yeah, and honestly, that's how I feel. I would love to look for shorts in this area, or even more so in this area, if we end up getting a bounce. I'm not interested in, doing what I was just bitching about earlier, shorting into support, right? Even though we did drop support, that doesn't mean the market goes straight down. It would be very natural to get some sort of a bounce. Either we retest this resistance and get rejected, or we start getting up into the actual swing resistance levels. The micro trend at this point, this would still technically be, a level that hype needs to break. So if you watch shorter time frames, if let's say the 5 minute, for example, ends up doing something like that, there might be a nice retest short, something like that. But yeah, my ideal setup would be closer to up here. And it does look like, have we dropped the 115 yet? Not quite. Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in. So there was not a bullish Stuber to pull from here, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would be seriously considering a long right now. But if you notice, so this was our previous low. Low, lower low. Highest point between the two would be our lower high on the micro trend here. So that's where I'd pull a fib, something like this. Notice we never even quite got to the 786. Unfortunately, that climb was cut short. So be it. You don't always get what you want. But yeah, so basically the lower high on this micro trend for hype would be somewhere in there. If we end up going lower right now, which it's very likely we do, then I can drop this down to this structure here, right? Because this was our low, lower low. If we get another lower low, then we have a new lower high. But we need to see that first, and we're going to see in the next couple minutes if it happens. Can I get Stuber analysis on Graphane? I will check out Graphane next. Yes, I am interested in that as well. I sold a bunch of my Graphane last week because it had a beautiful climb. But I will take a look at that in a bit. I want to see what hype's going to do in the next few minutes here. I'll just keep it up. And then I'll look at Graphane for you. I think it's definitely on BloFin. See, I would say Graphane might actually have a bullish Stuber fib here. Because if you really microanalyze it, we had a low and we set a lower low and we broke that. So at that point, if we end up pulling a fib, something like this, notice where we're finding support right now. I'll take a little long on that. Sorry, just give me 1 sec here. Now we see what happens. Shorted the weekly retests on hype, got half my trade open, feeling optimistic I'll close to a free trade. Yeah, where was it? The weekly open? Or oh, that's a beautiful short if so. That's a beautiful one, dude. Love it. Nice, nice. Yeah, that's a beauty short there. Well done. So obviously on something like Grifane like this, yeah, this is a fairly small range, right? So unfortunately the partial profits are quite close. I'm looking at them more so, if anything, paying fees and reducing my risk, and then hopefully some runs, right? Yeah, that's 1% and over 2%. So yeah, with some leverage, I am on 10x leverage, so 10 to 20% move for a nice scalp. I'll take it. Chaos. My issue with Grifane for long-term holding. The token doesn't do anything right now other than DAO. If I'm wrong, please correct me, anyone. Yeah, I have no clue, to be honest. And yeah, it looks like it's losing some nasty support, in my opinion. So I'm by no means bullish on it right now. I still hold some, but like I said, I did sell a good chunk last week because it just, we were not looking so hot. We were just starting to lose some structure levels and that sort of thing. So, and it had such a nice run. I think it was up like when we actually broke out from this structure here. Fuck, what was it? Because I just played the breakout, since I'm a little less picky when I'm spot buying things. I'm more so... I'm more picky when I'm leverage trading, because obviously there's more risk involved. With spot trading, I'm more willing to play breakouts and that sort of thing. But Grifane did have a couple nice trend lines and that sort of stuff. So when it did end up breaking that structure, I was willing to buy some. And like, yeah, it pumped over 300%. So it was a very nice recovery there. Even if it's short-lived, even if it doesn't recover from here, who knows? I mean, it still obviously has some sort of an uptrend. So we're going to have to see what happens with the altcoins, right? I think the market's in an interesting place right now because, as I said right at the start, I'm kind of leaning more bullish with altcoins than I am with Bitcoin. And that's a lot different to how I normally am, because in typical conditions, I would say if Bitcoin's going to nuke, then altcoins are going to get hammered even harder. The thing is, when we start getting closer to the end of the cycle, at least the last couple cycles, even when Bitcoin ended up topping, altcoins still had a good run for a month or so. So that's something that is still leading me to hang on to some of my altcoins and stuff like that right now. Because basically I see one of two things happening. Either Bitcoin has topped or is very close to topping, in which case I think altcoins would have one finale run. The other side of the coin is Bitcoin does go parabolic, breaks through my 1.15 and just starts staircasing or going parabolic, whatever it does, then even better for altcoins, obviously. The ETH BTC chart ended up breaking a bunch of levels, and as well BTC dominance was getting a fairly significant support resist flip. Where was it? Was it my daily I was looking at? Yeah, something like so. Wait a second. I thought I had a different trend line mapped out. Yeah, I think I had something bigger yesterday. It didn't save my chart clearly, but I think this is what I was looking at. Yeah, that's the one. A lot closer there. So we lost a very serious uptrend there, and as well getting this SR flip on the horizontal level as well. So I think it's quite likely, again, that if Bitcoin dominance is dropping, then that's showing some faith in the altcoins if, that Bitcoin money is starting to move around and cycle into other projects, right? So Bitcoin dominance, if it's going to get rejected here, then yeah, I think that altcoins are in a very nice place. Bitcoin dominance could climb a little bit higher, but I don't look at this chart all too often. So how often do Stuber fibs actually play out? I don't know, to be honest. I couldn't tell you. But either way, it's obviously resistance up ahead if the dominance were to climb a little higher. So yeah, a few things there. So yeah, just a few reasons why I'm still a little bullish on altcoins. Another thing, actually, where did my graphane chart go? Probably didn't save it either. Oh, good. Are we still in there? We're still in there. Yay. Might still hit my first target or two. Guys, one of the last things I want to talk about, and straight up degen alert here, I'm going to take a look at some altcoins that have some very low market caps and some meme coins. If the market cycle is coming close to a top, I would expect them to do well, period, just for a short period, and then probably get hammered worse than anything. When it comes to actual bear market time, that's where meme coins are going to crash 99% repeatedly, and they are going to be so fun to short. But as it stands right now, a few of them, I know I posted them in the micro cap chat, is IQ 6900. This would be one that caught my eye the other day, that on the daily time frame, we have the Trendmaster indicator that printed a daily buy signal. That is the first signal that it has printed on this coin. I actually caught like a 30x on this or something like that last time it pumped, so I was willing to play it again. And right now, I mean, yeah, it's struggling a little bit, but we do have this buy signal here. So even if we go a little bit lower, as long as it doesn't flip to a sell signal, I mean, that's looking pretty good. Also, the fact that it's obviously broke some structure, formed this nice double bottom back here. Even just kind of looking at where we're finding support, I mean, just an obvious level of interest here where we respected it as resistance a little bit. We respected it as support a few times. Yeah, just an important level. And to see that with the buy signal there looks good in my opinion. AS, kind of the same thing, right? We don't actually have a daily buy signal yet. We don't have any signals. But again, it looks very close to printing a daily buy signal here. I think this is like a 2 million market cap coin or something like that. So there has been huge gains on this one. I bought at I think it only had like $150,000 market cap when I bought into this. It was somewhere in the early February. But basically same thing, right? We have some tight consolidation, whether you want to say, this resistance down here, very tight consolidation, and we end up flipping that into support, and we just started staircasing higher, and we are still staircasing higher, right? Because if I turn this off, let's turn off the trend master here. Looking at this trend, this would be our high, higher low right here, right? Lowest point between the two. Pull a fib, something like that, and notice that even on a $2 million market cap coin, the Stuber fib was respected. We hit the 214 target, and now we see what happens. That's not how I'm trading spot with these things. I have been day trading these a little bit. Most of my bullish trades have been spot trading high volatile meme coins lately. But yeah, this is one, just kind of like I was saying on the daily, looks like we're going to print a buy signal fairly soon. So just, these things, they're obviously very high risk, but there is room for very large moves. So please don't be a total idiot. If you're going to play with these, understand it's basically VLT money, right? Very low market cap. Anything could happen. And, if the market gets spooked, these things are going to absolutely nuke. FWOG, another one. Daily buy signal, same thing. We had that really tight consolidation down here. We ended up breaking some levels, staircasing higher. So even though we are losing this buy trend right now, we still haven't lost this blue line. It's still, just again, one of those things that has potential for a large move if meme coins are going to make a nice run. You know, if there is no altcoins season coming up, then yeah, they might just get hammered into the ground and just become non-existent. But we'll see. Those are just a few meme coins that had recently caught my attention on the daily time frames. I think there's potential for some large moves there, but again, don't get stupid with your position sizing, because these things are very low cap, and if they do well, you don't need a massive position anyways, right? So we'll see. Stu the market maker for Fane now. That'd be funny. Hey, we hit my first target. First order secured. I'm not going to update my stop loss yet. I'm going to wait until we see if we hit my second target first. Actually, even if we hit that, I'm just going to let it go. If we hit my second target and then I get stopped out, it's going to be, you know, only half my position, and it'll be a very small profit anyway. So I'm probably just going to let this one roll. We'll see. See how I feel when we hit that level. Let's see. StuTube, could you take a look at Dog USDT? I sure could. Is it Dog Go to the Moon? Is it that one? I believe it is. So I will click on that. It is perfect. Perfect. Okay, let me just start with the naked chart here. Let's look at the 4 hour. Man, that's a nasty one, because it's such. Technically, it did go a little bit higher, so technically that would be our higher low. But man, that is messy. I have a hard time saying that, because you know, it might actually be this structure here that we're looking at, something like so. What's the trend master saying? Still have a buy trend. We are technically below it right now, but wow, this thing's wicky. I have no idea if there's any trade volume on this or not, but it looks like it's getting very volatile. How much is that? That just wicked 9% in like the 2 seconds I was talking about it there. That is ridiculous. I assume it's very low volume, so be careful with something like that. But yeah, so far still holding the uptrend. Even the fact that these buy and sell signals obviously flipped to printing higher sell signal, higher buy signal. So even if we get a sell, it's going to be a higher sell. At that point, I would be looking at pulling a fib, something like this, and starting to watch for support down in this zone here. As far as the 4 hour, I don't really want to look at lower time frames on this, because I think that it's obviously so wicky and volatile, and I don't know if it's just illiquid or what, but I think on the lower time frames, you're just asking for trouble. Like, you know what? Yeah. On the lower time frames, we do have a series of lower sell signals. Sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to look at the shorter time frames, but then my curiosity got the best of me. Yeah, we're printing on the 5 minute lower buy signals, lower sell signals. So as it stands right now, obviously it's in a little bit of a micro downtrend, but if it starts breaking, like really, even if it can break above where we kind of topped before the sell signal here, I think we're doing okay if we can get back above that, because ever since we started, if you just notice how, okay, we got our lower sell signal. So basically just printing our resistance where the lower sell signal ended up getting rejected before, right? So we got our rejection here, lower sell signal. So I don't want to see the price get back above this level if I'm going to be playing the short. We ended up continuing to the downside. Beautiful signal there. We print another lower sell signal here. So if that's going to remain true, I don't really want to see the price get back above this level. So as it stands right now, it's facing resistance on a downtrend on the shorter time frames. Um, Ave, Ave? I forget how to say that one. Man, I haven't looked at that one in years. It is on BloFin too. 4 hour, you say a possible Stuber fib? There, honey and silk. Let me start with a naked chart here. I don't have. I would say no. I see what you're looking at. You're looking at this, I believe. Yeah, you are. The thing is, we've had a Stuber fib since there because this was our high. Then we set a higher high that confirms this as our higher low. Then a higher high that confirms this as our higher low. So we actually had one right there. We would have hit the first target, not quite the second, and then we dropped that. So the fact that that micro trend has dropped, I don't have a ton of confidence in looking at this as a setup. That's not to say it can't play out, right? There's obviously resistance there because we got a nice little wick there. We got a nice reaction from that level. I'm not saying it's not support. It's just not an actual valid Stuber fib that I would be looking at. Unless... actually, give me 1 second. If I could get Confluence... Oh, boy. That Stuber fib on the auto fibs is very much invalidated at this point, so that doesn't do us any good. One other thing I would look for would be that trend master again. And yeah, since we don't have like a buy signal anywhere from in this general area, I wouldn't really be pulling a new fib. Honestly, the fact that we lost the micro trend, that's where I kind of start to look for the actual swing measurements. And if, oh boy, if that starts losing some of those serious levels, we could be in for quite a tumble. Again, this is one of those times I have to clarify. I am not saying we have to go down to those levels. It's just where we're at right now. It's kind of messy if you're trying to look for a Stuber fib, so it's not super clear. Could even try, let's see, what kind of trend line. Do we have a 3-toucher? We do have a 3-touch. I know not everybody likes trading trend lines. I like trading trend lines as long as they have 3 exact touch points or more, followed by that retest. So that's a nasty looking rejection to me. But that being said, it's not a very long trend line. It may not play out for long. Maybe we end up finding support, something like that. But just a few things to be cautious of there is all. What are the liquidations looking like? Struggling to stay above that liquidations band. There's liquidity on both sides of things. There is more to the downside, but there is a little bit both directions. So a little bit of mixed signals there. Volume delta, our point of control. Notice where our point of control is on the volume delta indicator. Right above my 886 that I pulled earlier. So there might be a nasty rejection there. I'd be cautious on that one, to be honest. Yeah, if Dog has a 500 million market cap and it was getting that wiki, it must just be not much liquidity in MEXC or not much trading volume happening or whatever. With the buy and sell signal on ALGO Master, are you only using them on the daily? So actually that's not the ALGO Master, it's the Trend Master. And it's not so much that I only use them on the daily, it's just that I've noticed on low cap coins, and this is going back for over a year now, I've noticed that a lot of times when you get those low cap coins that print one of those on the daily, that they can turn into some massive moves. So that's why I've been checking it with these low cap coins. Typically with any other analyzing, I don't really treat buy and sell signals on their own as a proper signal, but as I was talking about earlier, I love seeing which direction they're trending. I forget where I was looking at that, but that was on that dog coin. I like to see it's not so much that, a sell signal, time to sell or short. It's more so, okay, there's a lower sell signal. Now it's showing that the indicator is actually trending a direction. just like buys. If we had a daily buy signal and then a higher daily buy signal, or on the 4 hour, for example, that would also be massive. You see massive trends start with that sort of thing on the 4 hour or the daily on altcoins quite often. But yeah, that's the trend master. I do have presets on this, so if you use Trendmaster, there is a StuTube trading one. That means that you have all my settings. It would be this pink and blue color. It would look just like mine, basically, and then you can't change any other settings. So, but that is a preset if you want yours to look like mine. Graphane still hovering right around that 0.5 fib. Also happens to be the lower high on this very micro downtrend. Obviously, lower low, that's our high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Hopefully that makes sense when I go over it really quick like that. I know not everybody sees market structure that quickly or even looks at it the same way I do. I know it's micro analyzing to a lot of people, but it gets respected quite well. That wicks only on Mexi. Yeah, they must have low trading volume then. Bitcoin's still crashing a little further. 105, 250. Ooh. What is the 4 hour looking like? So we're kind of trading right around my macro 886 resistance. Obviously, we broke above it and ended up finding resistance in that swing fail level. So yeah, I mean, it would be very good for the bulls to actually find support in this level and not re-lose this, but I mean, I have a feeling we might do something like so. I know MDX has also been talking about, I think he was pointing out 91k. As far as my Stuber fib targets, they are at around 92. I call it 93 just because I always front run my targets a little bit. So the 0.5 fib, I'm calling it 93k, and as well the 214 target would be, I'm going to call it 83k. So yeah, there is, again, I got to say it, I'm not saying we have to go down to these levels, but if it happens, it doesn't mean that anything crazy or any sort of manipulation is happening. It just means that it's a typical Stuber setup. It's a typical market structure. It's just the market doing market things, but everyone screams manipulation if they don't see what's actually happening. But it would make total sense to end up dropping to those levels, even if we're going to remain bullish. If this market cycle isn't done and we're going to go higher, I would feel way better about it if we ended up finding support down at these levels. Because right now it just looks too risky to me that, hey, we just have this swing failure resistance. I mean, generally speaking, when you look at Bitcoin on any time frame, it ranges a lot more than it's breaking out, right? So for it to look something like this would just be a typical range. Maybe not that quickly, but that would just look very natural, in my opinion, for the price to do something like this. I would love to see that. It would take a long time to play out. Not many people would be too pumped about it because they'd be getting wrecked along the way. Promised all-time highs constantly. But we'll see. That being said, guys, if we start staircasing higher, like I said, I do have some good things to say as well, other than just, like I was talking about with the Trendmaster. I think it's very likely if we print a sell signal, I think we get a higher buy signal. We'll have to see where that comes in. I'm hoping it's down here for just the perfect setup. But that being said, if we don't get that and I'm totally wrong about this resistance, that's totally fine. That's why we have invalidations. But the fact that we had this high and this is our higher high, at this point, if we break that level, then we have another higher high, which means we have a new confirmed higher low. Whereas right now, the way the structure is, since this is our high, this is our higher high, that means our higher low on the actual macro trend is way down here still, around that 74.6K level where we reversed last time. On the macro trend, that is still our higher low. If we can now set another higher high, we can print a significantly higher one. And at that point, we can start looking for swing setups that have much tighter invalidations for proper structure. Obviously, it's a massive range. But it is what it is. This pattern's been forming since January 20th, right? Ergo, let me, Graphane's still hanging on. Hype still struggling. All right. Ergo on Bybit, you said? Yes. And the 1 hour, you said. Holy smokes, that's a big candle. So look at this. Even on this little downtrend here, notice, so we had this low, lower low. That would mean this was our lower high. We trended down lower, got a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and as soon as we broke that, I actually want to zoom in even further. Oh geez, just as soon as we ended up breaking that trend on the hourly, it absolutely exploded. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I would be a little bit scared to long it now, but I mean, if you're in spot or looking for some sort of a pullback to start looking for longs, yeah, that's a beautiful downtrend break. There was also such a tightly consolidated downtrend like that, right? Some sort of a falling wedge, if you want to call it that. Actually, speaking of that, see, I don't like this. Not to say this is bearish at all. Just as far as trading trend lines, because I was talking about that earlier. Notice that this only has 2 touch points. I would have loved this breakout so much more if it would have hit this as a 3rd time, rejected, and then broke it. I love, and that's just, maybe it's me being picky. That's just how I've always traded trend lines, at least for the last few years, is I only trade breakouts if they've had 3 or more touch points that are like exact on my trend line. So I'm pretty picky when I'm trading trend lines. So this one wouldn't have met my criteria. But that being said, like I said, it broke that obvious horizontal downtrend level, and as well the diagonal, that smaller one, which that was obviously well respected, even though it was a tightly coiled. It was just very well respected there. So yeah, we just absolutely moonshipped through that. I'm gonna keep looking at this as well as answering question here. The Trendmaster indicator. Sorry, I am going to try this in my Spanish because I know I refer to you as Eugenia, but Eugenia, is that correct? How is my Spanish? But yeah, the Trendmaster. Very good. Right on. Look at me. So Trendmaster indicator, right at the top, there is this presets, indicator presets, and there's a whole bunch there. MDX Crypto has his, the Lord of Entry, Chaos. So there's a few presets in there that you can choose from. Honestly, I don't know which is best. It totally depends how you play it and all that sort of thing, right? But basically what I use it for me, is for example, higher sell signal here. That was actually an excellent sign, right? If you were using the Trendmaster indicator, I don't know if this would have played out or not, but what I'm going to talk about here, let's see this. Was this a higher buy? This was technically a very slightly higher buy, right? There's a very, very slightly, basically double bottom, but it is very slightly higher buy signal there. And look at that move that it called. And the fact that we have a higher sell signal there, I would expect a higher buy signal to end up printing on this. And now I'm just curious for my own sake. Did we get... Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. That explains the rocket ship there. Perfect rocket ship right off that 786. So I would say that has a lot to do with what happened on the hourly there. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And no matter how you look at it, it was a proper Stuber fib because we obviously broke some structure. If you wanted to consider that your lower high, or this your lower high, or this your lower high, or this your lower high, where no matter how you look at it, there was obviously a nice uptrend started here. And when we get our pullback, being we have an uptrend, that's where you can look for that Stuber entry, and absolutely beautiful there. $1,000 Pepe. I will check out Pepe, or 1,000 Pepe. Any particular exchange? I'm just going to go Bybit. As far as Stuber fibs, we already had one here. You probably see what I'm seeing already, but this was our high, higher high, confirmed higher low. Let's pull a fib there. And we obviously hit 786, hit the first target, not quite the second yet, so we're going to have to see what happens there. I do think it's riskier getting into longs now just because, like I said, this may have already played out. I guess if you want to zoom right in, we could say that we're technically at a support level right now. Kind of a double bottom because technically we had this high, higher high, higher low. But it's not really jumping out at me as a proper Stuber fib. And honestly, even this one isn't. I'm going to check out some other things to look at as well. But I wouldn't even consider this one because this wasn't actually confirmed as a higher low because we never broke this higher high yet. If we break this higher high, do something like this, at that point I would love to pull a fib from here and get a pullback. Don't know if it would happen or not, but that's how I would be looking for a Stuber fib on that sort of a thing. Sorry, I want to check a couple more things before I really start bringing up some indicators and stuff. Well, I can see what pattern started this little run there. What is the Trendmaster saying? So we do have this buy signal. We're struggling to stay above it right now, so we may end up printing a sell. If that happens, again, we have an obvious uptrend of buy signals, so I would hope to see a new one come into play on the 4 hour and continue that trend to the upside. So yeah, not all hope is lost yet. That is absolutely for sure, because when you zoom out, I mean, it looks good, right? We broke out of this range down here. It's obviously staircasing higher so far, but just understand that we might see a pullback here. Hopefully short-lived. And if it happens, I would absolutely love to see a pullback to something like this, just because we have this buy signal down here. I think that would be beautiful. I want to see, does the ALGO Master... Okay, the ALGO Master... Or it's actually printing out the one that I printed out earlier, isn't it? Yeah, because this was our high, higher low, and that's where it pulled from. So yeah, there's some additional confluence to that, but again, it did technically hit the first target once already. Let's zoom in a little bit. I want to zoom right into the 5 minute. Let me, holy, that's hard to look at. I would consider looking at something like so. So we're getting pretty close to some support there. Trendmaster on the shorter time frame. So here's actually what I was talking about before, is that we have a higher sell signal. So that's where I would start to expecting a higher buy signal. But actually, that may be invalidated already. Yeah, I don't know. It's risky either way right there for me. Just because we now have a higher buy signal, lower sell signal. We have mixed signals, so it's not super clear there. And like I said, with the fibs, I would like to zoom out a little bit and go for a little bit bigger. Like I said, I think this would be the smallest fib setup that I'd be looking at for support. Would be kind of this general area down here. So we're getting close. But that's mostly looking for Stuber fibs and my Trendmaster strategy, right? So let's check the liquidation band, at least on the 5-minute. We're trying to hold above it. Liquidation levels are mostly above us at this point on the shorter time frames. So yeah, you know, might bounce soon. 4-hour, let's check some of those indicators as well. Liquidation bands is still below us, and actually notice where it lines up right around my 886 currently, so it's nice to see that confluence there. Liquidations kind of both sides of the hill. There's a lot of liquidity down here, but we'll see. It does almost look like there's a bit of a head and shoulders pattern forming, but I don't typically trade those all too much. It's just something that it looks like might be forming, basically. I don't have a strong opinion about this one right now, honestly. Bed looks like works like a magnet right now. Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, thanks for joining. I'm actually, I guess I've been here for an hour and a half now. Might wrap up here soon. Oh, Griffane. We might end up losing this one yet, but whatever. At least the loss will be a little bit smaller because it did hit the first take profit. Like I said, don't have a ton of faith in Griffane right now just because of the longer time frames. Not looking so hot in my opinion. I think it can go down significantly more, but as far as a scalp, figured it was worth looking at anyways. Bitcoin technically on the micro trend. On the micro trend, this would be our latest. So that's a small range, obviously. A lot of people wouldn't even consider it worth playing. But just notice where we are seeing a little bit of a reaction. Because we had our low, lower low, confirmed lower high. So that's how I pulled my fib, right? Trendmaster. We're obviously, when we do print a buy signal, it's going to be a lower one. And then I would be very interested in checking out where the lower sell signal comes into play. If there isn't one in play yet, I would be looking at this as my resistance, basically. Just because that's basically where we got our pivot before our sell signal here. So if we do end up bouncing here, I would love to pull a fib something like so. Nice big range there. But yeah, again, guys, if we can set another higher high here, the one way I wouldn't like to see that, let's say we extend our trend line something like this, and we just end up seeing a third touch point on that trend line and getting rejected, that might not be the best thing. However, like I mentioned earlier, just the fact that we got this high and this higher high, if we get another higher high now, we have a confirmed higher low, even on the macro trend, right? At that point, we need to watch because, yeah, it would be great. We would see that we're staircasing higher once again, and that would be bullish in my opinion. It would be great to see. But at that point, if we have something like this as a confirmed higher low, we do something like this, then we've lost it again immediately, right? So just a few things to kind of watch for moving forward. But as it stands right now, like I said, I think if anybody looked at this chart on a shorter time frame, they would consider this a nice swing fail rejection, even a perfect retest there. But when we look at the longer time frames, people don't really want to hear it or wait for it to play out. So we're gonna have to see. Like I said, I'm not married to my short trade, but I am willing to let a third of this run from a couple days ago, just in case it does absolutely drop off a cliff. Just something for those who want to be bullish or want to look for some sort of a hedge or a new long position or anything like that, I would be willing to look for a hedge anyways, would be if we did something like this. because at that point we would be breaking this lower high, right? And at that point, that's when I can pull a fib. And if we get a retest, that's where I can start looking for laddering in some longs in this area down here. And I would love to get myself into a new hedge long, right? Like I said, yesterday I was actually in a long, or yesterday I took a long. I was still in it today, but I'm not anymore. Stopped at break even on the remaining 3/4. But yeah, I would love to get into a long position, not even for the sake of being bullish, but just for insurance purposes, getting into a bit of a hedge, because like I said, I'm totally open to be wrong. That's the thing as traders, right? As long as you have a plan B. That's the thing. Anytime you enter a trade, always have a plan B. Know what your worst case scenario is. Know how much you're going to lose if and when you lose a trade, and all that sort of stuff. So I would love to get myself into a new hedge, because there's nothing more relaxing, in my opinion, than when you can get into a nice running position like this short that I'm in from 110.2. If I can let the rest of that short run and get into some sort of a hedge long position, then there's really nothing to worry about. I'm comfortable and ready for anything, basically. So I would love for something like that to happen. As far as the market goes, I mean, yeah, I know I'm spitting a whole bunch of bearish stuff at you guys still, and I totally get, I understand that I keep sounding bearish, but understand I'm very open to the idea. I would love for us to break all-time highs, okay? That's one thing I want to make clear, is that a lot of people think that I want Bitcoin to absolutely dump off a cliff. And to be fair, yeah, for my short sake, sure. Understand the rest of my portfolio is going to take an absolute ass kicking if that does happen. And I would love this market to go parabolic just like the next guy. But I personally have more faith in altcoins right now than I do with Bitcoin. But that's mostly just because Bitcoin is at resistance for now. Basically, it just needs to form some new structure. And at that point, then at least I have something to be bullish about again. Or, like I said, if we do actually dump, then at that point I can start looking for entries again. Even if we do something like this, you guys. Let's say we don't get down to my preferred entry, but we get something like that. All of a sudden we break the downtrend. Then at that point I can start looking for swing longs again. Just right now I'm not willing to enter a swing long position into resistance is all. I'll scalp and I'll hedge, but I'm not looking for a home run long trade right now. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys did find this stream useful in some way. For those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX ALGO indicators, there's a 10% discount link in the description down below. I've also got a private Telegram channel where I share some ideas, potential scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, my general thoughts on the market, just kind of a place for me to keep all my thoughts together where it's just me posting and that sort of thing. But it's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my sign up link and follow the steps in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Thank you so much for joining me once again, my friends. I'm out. Stay safe. Peace.